Of course, you know what a URL is, don't you? The string of text that appears on the address bar of your browser. Well, most internet users don't understand what the parts of a URL signify, and that makes them bad with URLs. I mean, you can't blame them, can you? After all, why in the world would you need to know how a URL is structured? You see, the syntax of URLs can be rather confusing, and this, along with a lack of understanding of parts of the URL, could be taken advantage of by cybercriminals to trick you into performing actions that you may not necessarily intend to do. So you have an incentive here. Clicking on endless number of links day in and day out warrants you know how to tell a fake URL from a real one. So what is a URL? Well, URL stands for Uniform Resource Locator. Let's just say a URL is something like an address that helps specify where a particular resource of a website is located. A resource could be any file like a web page, an image, a document or a video, and so on. So let's break the URL chunk by chunk. Now the highlighted portion of the URL is called the protocol or scheme, and Hypertext Transfer Protocol, abbreviated as HTTP, is basically a set of rules that help browsers and servers talk to each other. So it is this protocol that helps in transfer of hypermedia on the web. Now HTTP helps transfer data in plain text. But if the website were to use HTTPS, where S stands for secure, data packets being transferred between the browser and the server would be encrypted. Website owners would have to apply for what is called a transport layer security or a TLS certificate to ensure their website uses the HTTPS scheme. You would know a website has implemented TLS when you see a padlock besides HTTPS on the address bar. Well, keying in important details like your credentials on a website not implementing HTTPS on a public Wi-Fi would be dangerous. But that's hardly the problem today. You see, internet users are well aware of this, and most websites today employ HTTPS. However, the trouble lies in users thinking websites having HTTPS are inherently safe or legitimate. Remember, the padlock or HTTPS only signifies that data is transferred over an encrypted connection. It does not mean that the website itself is not malicious. Moreover, TLS certificates are quite easy to get these days, and there are scam websites masquerading as genuine entities. Next, we have this portion of the URL that refers to the domain name of the website, and a domain name has a few parts to it, each separated by a period. The example portion of example.com refers to the name of the website. It is called the secondary level domain, and the .com portion of example.com is called the top level domain. And it gives you an idea of what sort of an entity the organization behind the website is. Now, entities could be commercial, government organizations, or educational institutions. And there are also country code top-level domains like .in for India, .fr for France, or .hk for Hong Kong, and so on. But what if you encounter a URL like this? Here, blog is the subdomain of the secondary level domain, example. The takeaway that you have to remember is that the part or the label that comes just before the top level domain, that is the secondary level domain, is the main or the primary website. So always pay attention to the domain or subdomain in the URL. Bad guys employ something called typosquatting attack, where they use a fake URL to impersonate a genuine or a legitimate entity in order to commit fraud or spread malware. Now let's say there is a website called HTTPS example.com. Here are some of the ways scammers could try to spoof the domain name in order to trick you into clicking it. So this is a hyphenated domain. x-ample.com is not the same as example.com. Now take these two examples. Here, scam website is the name of the main website, and example as well as example.com are subdomains of scam website. HTTPS example.co has a wrong top-level domain extension. Now this example is a domain with a misspelling. Note that the L in the domain name has been replaced with a capital I. So in the next portion of the URL, we have the path or the directory called public, where the resource new blog post resides. Now this is a clean URL and is called a REST style URL. However, there are URLs that do not conform to the REST style pattern. A URL could also look like this. And now all the stuff appearing after the question mark symbol is called a query string. And to make things worse, you may have URLs like this. So what am I trying to address here? Well, now take this URL for example. Here the website example.com hosts the login page in a subdomain called auth.example.com. And once login is successful, the website would redirect you to your account page in example.com. Now, if the website is susceptible to something called an open redirect attack, an attacker could tamper with the redirect parameter to make it look like this. Now, since the URL begins with HTTPS auth.example.com, the link may look genuine. After logging in, you would be redirected to the attacker's website, http://example.attacker.com. And to make things worse, the attacker may make the URL look like this. So here the symbols are all URL encoded, and at times the entire redirect URL could be encoded too. And identifying a malicious intent in such URLs could be hard. So the best way to avoid falling prey to open redirects is to not click on links you are suspicious of. Do not immediately click links you receive via email, social media, or text messages unless you are very sure it is genuine. Make it a habit to inspect them first.